Welcome
Yeah.
everybody here this evening from Childhood Cancer Ireland. This is a webinar that is going to give us information around the different bereavement supports that are around Ireland for you and your family. Now that I've made you co-host, you're actually, I think you're the one that's actually,
Oh, um, let me see. I'm not actually at the minute able.
it's not
But
allowing you to do it either.
what I might do is maybe I will share the slides and then hand back to you. Maybe you can share them um afterwards. So if you know what I mean, when you come to the slide part, so I can
Perfect.
go back here.
Okay,
Sorry,
ideal.
bear with me. Now, are we?
So we're on the facilitator slide.
Yes. Is
So,
that
yep,
okay? Yeah.
that's perfect. So I'm Mairead Brennan, and I'm the principal clinical psychologist here and director of our psychosocial services here in Childhood Cancer Ireland. And then I'll leave it over to you, Sonia.
Yep, I'm Sonia Rennicks. I'm the Children's Bereavement Manager with the Irish Hospice Foundation, and I also coordinate the Irish Childhood Bereavement Network. And so I think my slides are next. So what I might do is just head on in, if that's okay, Mairead.
Perfect.
Perfect. So, what I'm going to have a look at is looking at the area of bereaved children, and if there are any, children, teenagers in your lives, and you're wondering what sort of support, what level of support they might need. That's the area I'm going to have a look at, and then I'll hand back to Mairead, who's going to have a bit more of an in-depth look. So. Just to introduce you to the Irish Childhood Bereavement Network, so you know that what we do and what we can do in terms of supporting you. So, we are a network of multiple bereavement agencies and organisations from across the country who support children and families who are bereaved. And our vision really is that all children and young people, supported by the adults in their lives, can easily access a choice of high quality, local and national information, guidance, and support, depending on what's most appropriate, and to enable them to manage the impact of death in their lives. So just to say that the scope of our work, so where there's a bereaved child, be it a bereavement through the death of an adult, a child, or a pet, we come in then and support the adults that are around the child. So we don't provide one-to-one supports to the child themselves. We support the adults, including parents, carers, families, extended families, etc. So, in terms of what we do then, and in terms of what might be most appropriate to yourselves, so we support professionals to deliver bereavement supports based on best practice, but we also signpost families and professionals to bereavement information and supports. So, if you do have a concern about a bereaved child, you can give us a shout, and we can help you maybe figure out what level of support might be required, if additional support is needed, and where you might find that in your local area. So, Mairead will share my details with you afterwards. We also have a website that you can, I suppose, trust and rely on the information in it. We have a whole families section that would be relevant for you, so you can check that out at childhoodbereavement.ie. So I wanted to introduce you to the levels of support that children may need. And it may or may not surprise you to learn that most children, and we're talking about 70 to 75% of children, will do absolutely fine with the people who are already in their lives. So families, carers, schools, coaches, so that community of support that's around the child, provided that the adults in the life of the child have information about what bereavement can look like for children and how best to support them. So that's the sort of information you can get on our website and through our free leaflets. Some children then would benefit from a little bit of additional support. So let's say a child is feeling very isolated or their coping skills are dropping a little bit. They might benefit from things like family days that are facilitated by different organisations, by some peer support through the likes of Rainbows, that sort of thing. So it's usually through voluntary organisations, and again, Mairead will go through a few of those and I'll mention some of them as well. At level three, then, where a child's coping has kind of diminished a little bit more over time and it's impacting their day-to-day function. So things like school, play, learning, socializing with friends, the job of children. So where there's an impact over time on that activity, a little bit of therapeutic support might be required. It's usually brief in its nature. For very few children then, so we're talking about 10 or 15%, dependent on a lot of different factors. But for some children where their distress has reached the point where it could be a diagnosed level of distress. So you might be talking about depression, you might be talking about anxiety, you might have different things like suicidal ideation, etc., creeping in. Well, that's going to require a higher level of support. So mental health and psychotherapy is usually where that comes in. And just to say, where a child needs a higher level of support, it doesn't mean that they're there, permanently. We would expect to see children and families moving down as their needs are met. So I'll pop on then. So I mentioned level two there, and I just wanted to go into it a little bit more. And we will have these slides sent on to you, so you can refer back to them if ever you need them. So I mentioned that a bit of peer support or listening support, or family days and things like that could be beneficial, and that's usually where you see, withdrawal, aggression, regression, those sorts of things creeping in, a sense of isolation or that I'm very different to everybody else in school, those sorts of things. Anxiety about safety or further loss, where it's inhibiting the child to engage in their usual activities. Maybe, maybe the family themselves are, having a very difficult time, and maybe the resources aren't there, and a little bit of external support is needed to support the child, and that's completely understandable as well. Sometimes that's where a level two is very, very important, and sometimes it's the whole family that can actually engage in it, so it's very beneficial. Another piece there is, so if a child, and this would be quite common, has difficulty expressing feelings because they mightn't have the language for it or making sense of what has happened. Level two support can be really helpful there. Level three then. So this is where I mentioned, there's kind of prolonged distress and it's interfering with the day-to-day activity of the child. You might see things like school refusal coming in, maybe relationships are breaking down, maybe the child doesn't want to see their friends, that sort of thing. There might be guilt or shame or anger there. That's not really lifting. There might be the beginnings of signs of mental health difficulty. So there might be some anxiety behaviors or trauma responses there. And there might be risk-related concerns as well, just beginning to surface though. And then a check in with a level three professional would be required at that point. So level four then, where I mentioned that'll be the higher level of distress, and very few children will reach that, but if they do, there is supports available. So there's a risk of harm. So let's say the suicidal ideation has actually transitioned to maybe suicidal planning or active self-harm or unsafe behaviors. You might have depression that's not lifting, so it's more than a low mood and it has stuck around for a period of time. Maybe there's trauma responses or some post-traumatic stress disorder creeping in there. There may be at this point just an inability to attend school, so that school refusal has actually translated into an inability to attend school at the middle or at the moment, and persistent dysregulation. So really not able to regulate themselves. There might be some, if there is, you know, the family are doing everything they can, and the level two and the level three are doing everything they can, but actually the distress isn't lifting. That's where you might be looking at level four. So if you're unsure at all, you can always give me a call and I can chat through what's happening and point to the level, because you mightn't, I'm looking at it every day, so I might be able to point a little bit quicker to where it might suit. Barnardo's Children's Bereavement Service has a fantastic information, a helpline as well, and that's open Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And they have a whole team there, including clinicians, so they'll be able to look in depth at what's happening. The GP as well is a good first point of call. And then if you do have an urgent concern for your child's safety, and as I mentioned, this is really only, it might occur in about 10% of children where their distress actually reaches a point where there is a concern for their safety. We would say if the concern is urgent, to contact your GP, out of hours GP, or A&E. So just to give you an idea of what might be at these levels. So level one, and you'll remember that we spoke about, that's where the child is best supported in their natural network. And all children will need that support as well, even if their needs rise higher, they will need that base of the pyramid too. They need the community. So you're talking about the likes of myself and Barnardo's, Embrace Farm for rural families, the HSE, Jigsaw, Winston's Wish. So there's a big list. This is just indicative rather than the total list. And I've been out in the road doing different presentations, and I've insulted some regions by not including their organisation, but this is just an idea of what's at the level. But I can help you find a broader range as well if you do get in touch. Level two, then we have the likes of Rainbows. We've Hope Space, which is a listening service in the West. It's based in Galway, but covers a couple of the counties there as well. If there's a hospice, or if a hospice has been involved, they usually have some sort of bereavement support. We have Purple House, who run some really, really good programs where children can get peer support for when they're bereaved. The ISPCC is one that sometimes we forget, but actually a lot of their workers are bereavement trained, so they can be really a good touch point for a listening service for children. The likes of Jacinta's Smile have their adventure days for families, Laura Lynn, etc. And as I mentioned, Mairead is going to go into a little bit more detail about other organisations, so I won't speak too long on them. Level three, then. So Barnardo's Children's Bereavement Service are actually I would say the lead agency in terms of traumatic bereavement in the country. So they would operate at level three and level four. But another good resource is Community Therapy Ireland. So they are a collective of therapists, and they are TUSLA supported. So frequently with the therapists that are listed under Community Therapy Ireland, there's a low cost or no cost arrangement there, and they're usually dotted throughout the country in places like family resource centres. Jigsaw Youth Mental Health are also really solid at level three. First Light, the Children's Grief Centre in Limerick, who again can offer supports to those who are from outside Limerick, but again, obviously there's the commute and things, but they are really solid support. Embrace Farm also has therapeutic supports available now as well if you are living in a rural area. Jacinta's Smile, where it's a sibling that has died, they can arrange for reduced cost psychotherapy as well. And then obviously we have Childhood Cancer Ireland. So at level four, then you're talking about the specialist mental health support. So again, Barnardo's is a really good first point of call. They are based in Cork and Dublin, and with some other outreach capacity. Even where they have waiting lists, they do triage children, so it's very much worth a call to them, and they might be able to point to supports while the child is waiting. You're talking about CAMS, or the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service, at this level. The HSE often in different areas have some very good supports in primary care, but they can actually operate as a liaison between the two levels there, and they can help parents understand where the child might be best supported. Jigsaw as well can really help hold the space at level four, provided that the child has no active plan in relation to self-harm and suicide. And then you're into the private counselling space. And just to say, even though there is a cost associated with this, some agency like the Lions Club, St Vincent de Paul, etc., in my experience in my own role, they've been really, really supportive for families when they do need to invest in therapeutic supports for children. So it's very much worth considering if there isn't another appropriate support in your area. So I won't dwell on this, but I did want to say, when we're talking about level 3 and level 4 supports, it's really important that the person who's offering the supports, be it counselling or play therapy, um, are actually appearing on these lists of accredited practitioners. So I'll send you on some more information on it. But at level 3, we're talking about counselling and psychotherapy. Psychotherapy actually does some more in-depth work as well, so it can operate at level 4. And then play therapy, really, really important that the person is accredited in play therapy. Level 4, then the providers would need to be appearing on the Irish Council for Psychotherapy or the Psychological Society of Ireland, or if it's a psychiatrist, they would be on the Medical Council list as such. It's important then that they would have experience and some training in children and bereavement too. So the link at the end, which I'm going to send out, is actually a really nice summary of how to navigate what can be a complex space when you're looking for private counselling or psychotherapy. It's just going to do a quick check on the time. I've no sense of time. So just to remind you that the ICBN website has a family section on it. So it's been created over a number of years with expert input. So it's a good first point of call. We also have a range of free leaflets, and we have the children's one on this, but actually the Irish Hospice Foundation have an extensive range of leaflets for bereavement, and they're all free to order. So, and I know Mairead will go back into this, just to remind you, when you're supporting a bereaved child, our instinct is always to look after them first, because we're trying to make sure that they're okay. But it just reminds you can't pour from an empty cup, and children, in the general, they do okay. And it's really important that you're minding yourself and that you're looking into your own bereavement needs. And that flows down so naturally then to your children. And I know you probably know this, I'm preaching to the converted, but just to remind you, we have a bereavement support line in the Irish Hospice Foundation, and it doesn't matter when the death occurred. This phone line is there. There's no criteria on it. It's a free bereavement support line, and all of the people on it have been really well trained. There's signposts and availability for adult supports, but everybody who is going to be talking to you on the phone has also experienced bereavement. So lived experience is really important for the volunteer intake on that as well. So what I might do is hand over to Mairead, and if there's any questions at the end, you can ask me, or you can drop me an email afterwards or a phone call too. Sorry, I need to stop sharing, don't
You
I?
do, yeah.
Yeah,
I was trying to
sorry.
figure it out here. Thanks. Thank you so much, Sonia. And you're so right. There's so many different supports. It can be so challenging to
Yeah.
navigate it, can't it? So having that um having that awareness of where to go and who can signpost to you is so very important, isn't it?
Yeah.
And getting the right level of support and the right expertise in that support. Let me see if I can. I was trying to go forward, but bear with me. I might just have to do a quick moving forward with this to where you in it. Can everybody see that? Perfect. Ideal. So I know that Sonia focused primarily on children, but then she also spoke at the end towards the support needed for you to look after yourself. And I suppose what I'm going to do is just to give a quick overview of the different services around the country, looking at maybe the different levels. We can maybe, between myself and Sonia, may be able to kind of tease through what levels some of them are at. Again, it's not an exhaustive list, but it's giving you some guidance. You might find some here that you already recognize or already aware of, already involved with. But even if there's none there that you are aware of, or you want us to give you some guidance around that, we can do that tonight or into the future. So we'll start with our own here in Childhood Cancer Ireland. We have a number of different supports. We have a bereavement grant, a once-off €1,000 grant. We have play therapy or psychotherapy for siblings. and that would through a network of play therapists around the country that are fully accredited and that have experience working with bereavement and with families after trauma. And we have online counseling with myself for older siblings and parents. We have online parent advice sessions with a play therapist, so it could be a one-on-one online session. We have our bereavement webinars, family events through the year, our goal-driven podcasts, and only some of them may be appropriate, some of them may be a bereavement, families who've been bereaved, and some are going through treatment, so there's a wide range, so it's about picking ones that feel relevant to you. We have had financial and advice and information from our from Ireland Financial Advice Services that would have awareness of our family's needs as well and work closely with us. And then we have our Remembering Your Child events throughout the year as well. We're all probably familiar with Evie's Pink Tie as well. And Evie's Pink Tie has a funeral grant and if needed bereavement counselling. And this can be accessed through your social worker. So some of these supports are primarily through the social worker. Some of the other supports in different services might be if you have been linked in with the service already while your child was going through treatment or at end of life. And then there are services that you can just phone up yourself and self-refer at any time. I know we spoke about Barrettstown in previous webinars as well, and Barrettstown have a bereavement program where, and you spoke earlier, Sonia, around that peer support, and that really encompasses what Barrettstown bereavement program looks like. It is bereavement weekends for families to come together and enjoy all their gorgeous activities there. We have Cancer Fund for Children, and they have a number of different types of supports, and you'll see their QR code there as well for contact details. So they offer informal parental support to all parents. They also offer online bereavement groups. These are closed groups, so there are already 2 or 3 closed groups into the this year. So I think they're after about 2 or 3 meetings already. There are a number of other meetings in the months ahead, but so those are closed group already. You would already have to be involved in, but they will be running more next year as well. They also have short breaks at Daisy Lodge for families in Newcastle, and they have direct informal therapeutic support for bereaved siblings on a one-to-one basis with their cancer support specialists that do typically attend your home. And there's ongoing opportunities for peer connection there as well. Hand in Hand is a charity based here in Galway. And in terms of bereavement supports, it's a service that's available to families 2 years post-bereavement and offers counselling for parents or guardians and play therapy or counselling for children. Jack and Jill offers bereavement supports, but it's limited to families who've received care from Jack and Jill. And a liaison manager will do a follow-up bereavement visit with family after the bereavement, and also they offer 2 years support after the death of a child. And they also refer directly to Barrettstown bereavement camps as well. But as I said, this one is limited to having already been engaged with Jack and Jill. And Laura Lynn is saying that it offers supports to families who have been linked in with them already. So for parents, siblings, and other family members. And this is for 3 years, for the first 3 years of bereavement. And this is, I suppose, gives an idea of the different levels of support they have, just like Sonia spoke about earlier, that they have actually offer support at all the different levels from 1 to 4. And they do offer a 3-year targeted grief support for parents. That's a closed group as well, in year 1 to 2 and year 3. You already spoke about Jacinta Smile as well, Sonia. So there is the support groups for parents and also individual bereavement counselling and the adventure days for families. And that is more so focused, the adventure days are more so focused for siblings, isn't it, Sonia? So they have.
Yeah, but actually the parents or carers are very welcome as well. I think they're involved in different parts of the day or maybe separate activities. Yeah.
And Lena's foundation doesn't have any specific bereavement supports. However, if they have provided financial support directly to you when your child had a life-limiting or chronic complex care need, then they can offer support under that remit. And I know we mentioned already on another webinar that Oscar's Kids do have support for families, specifically a private Facebook group for families to connect. And then I suppose we're talking about the different cancer support centres around the country. So here in Galway, there is Cancer Care West, and it's in Galway, but there's also a Donegal centre as well. And they offer bereavement supports to adults and children. And it really is there. Most of these cancer support centres would take self-referrals, so direct referrals. Another such cancer support centre is in Westmeath, and that is Lark. And they too offer one-to-one bereavement support and group support for adults and children. Greystones also offers counselling support. It offers one-to-one, it offers support groups and also well-being classes. And that really, I suppose, how that would fit probably within level 1, wouldn't it, Sonia? So offering advice and information, but also those well-being classes, so not specifically direct counselling support.
Yeah, really good to see that actually, and that would be particularly good for children who may have an intellectual disability or neurodivergent children where they are non-verbal. Movement tends to be a really, really good option, and gardening too, actually. Singing or noise making, music making, any of those things is a different form of expression but works really well.
And I think it can be really helpful at any of the cancer support centres is sometimes to call in, because it's not always easy to pick up the phone and you're maybe talking to someone, someone new and having maybe to tell a little bit of your story. So it can be really helpful sometimes to walk in, have a cup of tea or cup of coffee. There's usually a drop-in service in most cancer support centres. And Roscommon Cancer Support Centre in Vita House also has counselling for the whole family, and then also complementary therapies for adults as well. So again, it's not specifically just focusing on counselling support. Solace in Waterford offers a huge range of bereavement supports as well. And you talked there, Sonia, around the different types of supports that can be so helpful for children. So these supports are from the age of 5, and it's art therapy, creative therapies, creative art, and art psychotherapy. So loads of different types that can fit with different children and their different needs, which is wonderful. And then supports for parents. Again, it's simply not just counselling support, it's all those different ranges of complementary body therapies, as well as meditation, yoga, and information sessions. So full range again of different supports. I think they capture a lot of those level 1, level 2, and some level 3 supports. And I won't go through all the list of the different cancer support centres around the country, but this gives you a flavour of the different ones. So most of the country is catered to. And I suppose a couple of years ago, the National Cancer Control Programme standardised the supports across the country to make sure that they were fully accredited, that you're being offered the right support by the right expertise, which is lovely because then you can rely on the level of care that you're getting and the expertise of the professionals that are supporting you. And I know we've spoken before around Anam Cara, and they're offering parent support. So the peer-to-peer support, the bereavement information evenings that seem to be running most every month as well. And then the different family remembrance events throughout the year. Do you want to speak a little bit to this, Sonia? I know you mentioned them earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean the national helpline, so I'm starting on the right-hand side, but the national helpline is really an excellent support, and you can rely on the information you get there in terms of children's bereavement. The next level up then would be the therapeutic support, and they can offer that at level 3 and level 4. And they approach therapeutic support thinking of the whole family. So the family is always included, and any other person actually who's part of the system of the child where the family thinks it's appropriate. So there's no set time on the supports that are available. It's flexible and can match the needs of the child and family. So really, really important to link in with them. Um, they can also link in with schools and different things like that. Let's say a family felt that maybe the school could do a little bit of upskilling before the children return, or they've returned and they still think that. So actually Bernardo's can offer those sorts of training and awareness sessions, and so can the Irish Childhood Bereavement Network. So if you did feel like maybe the school could benefit with some, they can also get in touch with me and I can do a session with them.
You already mentioned as well, and I know that earlier in our series we had a representative from the Children's Grief Centre here with us. And again, it's one-to-one support for grieving children and young people around the Limerick area, but not limited to Limerick. The Irish Hospice Foundation, which we already spoke about. And there I see also you've got other free bereavement resources. So lots of different resources. Maybe it's videos, maybe it is leaflets, podcasts and audios. So lots of different access. And then I'm also going to show you that a little bit later on is the Rosabelle Rooms Funds. And I suppose we had Suzanne as well from Rosabelle's Rooms on with us last month. So I'll give you a little bit more detail a little further on. Here we go. So right into it. So Rosabelle's Rooms, it is now a Galway-born project, but now a national initiative that is run in partnership with the Irish Hospice Foundation. So there is the €1,500 bereavement grant that's available to families. And then also you can access one-to-one support through them as well. Isn't that right, Sonia?
Yes, yeah.
And I know the last time as well, we spoke about the different podcasts that were available, and you've mentioned already that that's something that is you have as well on your website, Sonia. So also we have the Grief podcast, which is Shapes of Grief. Also, there is Grief Encounters is another one that's well recognized. And people do, even some of our members on here would have talked about finding beneficial Family Flowers Only by Grief Ireland. And also, as I mentioned earlier, we have our Gold Ribbon conversations as well. That's just a flavour of some of the Irish grief podcasts that are available. And then that was just a whistle stop tour. And I suppose it really is just telling you all the, to think about the different levels that Sonia mentioned, that sometimes it's information and advice, whether it be written resources or audio resources like videos or podcasts, or signposting from, say, Sonia, that would be really, really helpful, and the level of support that's needed. And then sometimes a little bit more support is needed. So I suppose it can change. It can change over time, whether it go up in levels in terms of needs of supports or comes down. So that can vary over time. And every member of the family may have a different journey through that. I always say that grief is as individual as your thumbprint. So it really can change in any direction. But know that there's all these level supports that are available that you can dip into at any time. And that one thing that's really important is that you make sure that it's from the right expertise, the person with the right level of expertise for your needs at the time. So I suppose one way of is making sure that they have, as Sonia said, maybe that full accreditation, professional accreditation. But sometimes that can be a cumbersome journey. So it is maybe to link in with myself or with Sonia. These are our different QR codes to be able to get in touch with us directly so that we can maybe signpost you or guide you to the support that would be most helpful for you at any time point, for you or any member of your family. I'm going to stop the sharing now, and I'm going to stop also our recording.